Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Brian. This is how you know, actually, when somebody's star is still very firmly in the ascendant and much further to go. The number of people that want selfies with Brian on the side. Well done to you, Brian, and welcome to the UAE. I'm sure there's higher deity than me that have welcomed you, but it's good for you to see you here. Tell me why it's now, this moment, that you're in Dubai and the UAE. What has changed? What's happened? Why here? Why now?
Yeah, well, I think the UAE deserves a ton of credit. This is a country that has gone out of its way to create a dedicated digital asset regulator with VARA here in Dubai. They've published a clear rule book that protects consumers and also is business friendly. It's enabling of this technology. And there's been incredible leadership from the top that has recognized the potential in this technology and said, we want this industry to be built here. That makes the UAE a very special place in the world. It's exciting for us as a potential hub to build as well, an international hub for Coinbase that could serve not only the Middle East, but parts of Africa or other countries in Asia. So there's something culturally here. Frankly, this is my first trip to the UAE, and I wish I had come here sooner because I'm really liking it. And I feel like the culture here very much aligns with our mission at Coinbase, which is to increase economic freedom in the world. And there's a celebration about the future and the potential of technology that really personally resonates with me here.
Is there a regulation arbitrage? I know you've got your angst in the United States of America at the moment with regulators. So tell our audience why this regulator, VARA and ADGM, what is different about regulation here? I mean, some people say, oh, is it lighter touch than the US? Is it more aggressive than the US? How would you define that arbitrage?
Yeah, I don't think it's lighter touch. Coinbase is going to apply the same rigorous compliance standards that we do in every country around the world. And we started in the US, which is a big market, has respect for rule of law. I think the US right now is frankly a little bit behind in terms of regulatory clarity and some of the rhetoric from the top. But the US will get there eventually, and I think Coinbase has a role to help make sure that happens. But other markets where we have a presence already, like in Singapore and the UK, they're starting to make progress towards clear legislation. The UAE, I think, it's a place where things can get done. Most places in the world, you encounter bureaucracy and things are slow, and here they seem to just get done, and I really appreciate the efficiency of that.
Now, we won't put any pressure on him to make a judgment call on the stage whether he wants to be in Abu Dhabi or Dubai. No hint, you're in Dubai this afternoon. How do you see that for you? Can you be present in both ADGM and here in Dubai? How far advanced are your talks?
Right. Well, this is, again, my first trip. I'm here to learn. I'm getting the lay of the land, and we are meeting with both ADGM and VARA earlier today. I think we have both an institutional business and a retail business with Coinbase, and so there may be an opportunity to work with both in the sense of ADGM may be better on the institutional side, where there's lots of capital. I think that VARA could be interesting on the retail trading side. So we're still getting the lay of the land, but we're interested in investing more in the UAE in both regions, really.
Do you think it's the hub and spoke model for you here? I had a conversation with one of the young CEOs of another exchange here before it came up, and he said, it's a very mature market, Manus, it's very overbroked, it's slightly overbulked here. Is that your initial perception of our market?
Well, no. I mean, I think this is a major market in and of itself. There's a lot of wealth here, high net worth individuals. But again, it gives you access potentially to the whole region and even other continents in a way that's pretty exciting. The time zone also just is really important for us to get right in terms of how we serve this region of the world. And so we have entities in other parts of the world, but it's important for us to have a hub here.
So we just did a TV interview with Brian a short time ago, and he said that he doesn't talk about the competition, as no CEO should or does. But let's give it a go anyway. Binance are here, and they're quite a hefty presence. Have they done the hard work? Have they created an ecosystem that you can do better of?
Well, as I said in our last interview, I'm not going to make comments about any other companies out there in the world. There's many good ones in the crypto space, and there's some that haven't done as well either, as obviously people know. But I think there's a large number of startups here in the UAE, both in the crypto space and writ large, and so that's exciting to us. We've actually invested, Coinbase Ventures has invested in, for instance, Rain, one of the local exchanges a few years back. It's an exciting region for technology development.
Will you put more capital to work here? Is that also part of your ambition, not just the Coinbase mothership.
Yeah.
But are you ready to deploy more capital in region?
Yes, I mean, we are considering UAE as a potential international hub, which would involve local jobs, minded management, everything.
What do they need to do here, or what could be done here that would say to you, I'm going to discount the UK, I'm all in on the UAE?
Well, our entity in the UK, I think, is important to keep just to serve the UK market. But what's exciting about the UAE is that this could be a region to not just serve the UAE, but many other countries in the world, maybe even 50 or 100 different other countries, right? And so I think the meetings I've had so far are very good, and what we're looking for is essentially furthering of that regulatory clarity. So today there's already a pretty clear rule book, but we need additional clarity around things like DeFi, self-custodial wallets, how those might be regulated, how retail traders would be able to engage with this technology.
Obviously, to be successful, you need good banking relationships that run deep. Have you had any initial conversations with counterparties here, banking counterparties here, that you want to develop with and establish a formal relationship with?
So there are a couple, I don't want to share who, but there are a couple meetings I'm having before I go. I think, Coinbase has been lucky that we've been able to work with some of the biggest banks in the world, and I think that's a testament to our focus on compliance and regulation and doing the right thing, even going back 10, 11 years now, before we became a publicly listed company. Now, obviously, in the US, there were a couple bank failures recently, which has kind of created a resurgence of interest in crypto as an alternative system.
Do you really believe that that's part of the flow story, bank failure, I'll hold crypto? At an institutional or at a retail level? Talk me through it.
Well, I think the crypto markets, they do trade based on people's sentiment. And, markets are a complicated thing. People are trading based on what they think other people are going to think, and it becomes, a recursive thing all the way down. But yeah, I mean, and the funny thing also which happens is then, crypto, like Bitcoin is up like 70% year to date, which I personally wouldn't have predicted. And then Monday morning, people are like, well, let's make up a reason why that happened. And so anyway, the current best explanation I've heard is that, yes, the bank failures in the US have driven some kind of resurgence of interest in crypto.
Does it have the muscle memory to get to $100,000? Make some news, Brian.
Well, I'm always very careful not to make any predictions about the future prices. And frankly, I mean, I think that trading has been an interesting use case for crypto, and it's been a good revenue driver in the first sort of 10 years of crypto. But I think we've already seen that start to diversify. Coinbase's revenues are now about 50% from non-trading fees. And that's been a really important development. We've seen people start to use crypto for more and more things. This is partly why it's so important to get retail customers access, because they're using it to send remittances abroad. They're using it to earn a living. They're using it to have new types of ways to compensate, artists putting out their material online. So there's lots of use cases of crypto, and it really needs to evolve beyond trading to bring the benefit of this technology to 1 billion people.
So part of the traditional story here, when you talk to banks and you talk to various money providers and exchanges here, has been the remittance market. What portion of your ecosystem can be around remittances if you choose to scale up here?
I actually don't know the answer to that question. We haven't found out yet. I think the remittance market does have a lot of optimization to be done, though, because if you're really sending 100 dirham to another country or something like that, the fees can be enormous. Even 10% or more. So, and these are from people who can afford it the least. So I think there's many different ways that crypto can update the financial system, and making international payments more efficient is certainly a big one.
Now, there's a traditional kind of conversation that happens here when we have CEOs that come through internationally, which is, do you want to be here? Do you maybe want to think about Saudi Arabia? Saudi Arabia are pushing various organizations to domicile and scale up in Saudi. When you look at the regulatory landscape, is Saudi part of your thinking at all? Do you expect a regulatory rollout from them later this year as well?
I haven't visited there, so I don't have the latest information, but my high-level point of view is that the UAE is leading at this point.
And in terms of human capital, we often talk about capital. I think it's an awful word, isn't it? Human capital. Who are you? I'm a piece of human capital. I hope that's how they look at me. But, the draw of individuals, programmers, various people involved in your business, do you think that there are lifestyle choices that will draw people to this ecosystem relative to the developed markets that you've traditionally seen?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of the most ambitious young people, they want to be a part of the future. They want to help build the future, and they want to be there in the ground floor. I mean, that's part of why I started Coinbase 11 years ago, is that I felt like this could be a big piece of the future, and I felt like I had an opportunity or a front row seat to try to make that happen. So, yes, I mean, Dubai is certainly a really exciting city. I've already met a number of people who've, 85% expats. Like, there's a reason they're coming here. It feels like a land of opportunity.
And just when you say that sort of 10, 12 years ago, you felt that you could be part of something. I was watching Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger over the weekend. Thankfully, I watched somebody who was older than me. Mm-hmm. But I wonder, who inspired you? I mean, was it, I want to be Elon Musk, I want to be Warren Buffett, I want to be Bill Gates? What is it, or who is it that perhaps inspired you the most? Yeah,
well, my background is as a software engineer, so I never really saw myself as an investor like Warren Buffett. And his views on crypto are probably not something I would personally align with, which is a separate story. But I mean, the people who inspired me early on, they were technical people who managed to create interesting companies. I studied a lot about the history of different companies like PayPal and Square, and Elon is certainly a very inspiring figure today. I think what the magic there is, he's attempting more ambitious things than most people would ever think is even possible, and then he's actually delivering on them, right? Even if it takes 10, 20 years to do it. And so I think there is something exciting about that. People should try more ambitious things. And before starting Coinbase, I actually had started a couple of other companies. Mm-hmm. I did one in the education space. I had a couple other little ideas that didn't go anywhere. And when I look back, I think, was I passionate enough about that to stick through it for the 10,000 hours or the 10 years or whatever that it would take? And I wasn't actually passionate enough about it. So one of the things that made, I think, Coinbase work was that I said, this is a crazy and big enough idea. Let's try to make a new economy for the whole world that's more efficient and fair and free. And I was like, that's something, even if I'm trying it for 5 or 10 years and we haven't fully achieved the view, I'm still going to be passionate about it.
And what's the dream? If you had that ambition 10, 12 years ago, and you sit here today, a very accomplished CEO, what is your view in terms of what's the next big sort of mountain to climb for you in this ecosystem, in this world?
Yeah, well, so we've certainly had a lot of success so far. I mean, there's hundreds of millions of people in the world who have used crypto now. I think roughly 25% of the population in the UAE has used crypto now, is one stat that I saw. But we're a long way from getting 1 billion people in the world to use it, or maybe half the world population. And if you look at the adoption of the smartphone or internet, that's the kind of curve that it eventually got to. So I'm having fun. We get to have more and more resources and opportunities to build bigger things. And we'd like to get eventually 1 billion people accessing.
How do you get 1 billion people, Brian? How do you think you get there?
International expansion. There's not enough people in the US. So we've got to go to some of the highest population regions of the world, India, Africa, Philippines, etc. Indonesia, the biggest populations of the world.
Define,
and China too, although we haven't been able to make progress there.
Why?
Well, the regime there recognizes the power and the potential of cryptocurrency, but they want to be in full control and monitor their citizens with their own digital R&B. And that doesn't really align with my values or Western democratic values or whatever you want to call it. So I think most places in the free world, crypto is going to be, decentralized crypto assets are going to be allowed, and they're just going to be regulated to make sure there's some consumer protection. But it would be a very dangerous path if other people followed in the footsteps of authoritarian regimes like China on that front. There's social credit scores, and you can just, if you're a dissident, you can be debanked, these kinds of things.
But yet, every day on Bloomberg, we extol the economic growth, the monetary policy, how we are inextricably linked to the growth of China for our success. Can you and will you grow Coinbase? Absolutely not in China. Everywhere else, Manus, I will look at more or less, but it's a hard no to China.
Well, yeah, that's basically, we're going to be trying to expand everywhere that we can, legally. I think currently, if we tried to participate in China today, we would be blocked very quickly, so it doesn't make business sense for us to do it. But a lot of the best companies in the world are blocked in China, so we'd be in good company.
you can survive. Going back to the sort of the mythical, not mythical, the magical billion number, as you say, who is it that will take you there? Is it, I take some convincing to get me over the line. Okay, that's my age, that's my demographic. I know and understand property, I know and understand equity, I know and understand bond and FX. I do not know and understand, if I'm very honest, your currency. So do you need the baby boomer with capital? I'm not a baby boomer. Do you need the baby boomer with capital? Do you need my gen, or is it all, under 30 that is going to take us to this, billion user number?
Well, there definitely is a demographic interesting. I mean, the most popular demographic for people using crypto today is 25 to 35 years old.
Yeah.
But that being said, there's a lot of people in the world who are young, and they're eventually getting older. And so it's funny, when I go meet with, say, members of Congress in the United States, which tend to be on the older side, oftentimes, they're still getting educated on crypto, but their kids and their staff in the office, they're all showing me, hey, I have the Coinbase app.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's true of most new technology in the world. It takes time for people to adopt it and get comfortable, and the younger generation often will lead that.
And in terms of that growth, we were talking about it on the TV just a short time ago, which is about the growth of the ETF for your business and for the world of crypto. For our audience here that didn't see the Bloomberg interview yet, explain to them why the ETF evangelist moment is so important for you.
Well, getting an ETF approved for crypto would certainly drive a lot of capital to flow into the ecosystem. And that's not the only way it can happen, though. I think that should get approved. For instance, we just launched an asset management business through an acquisition that we did. So I think that's going to be a really good way for large institutions to move more funds into crypto. Look, most of the money in the world is tied up in institutions, like something like 90% of it. And so that's why Coinbase has built such a big institutional business. And there's one piece of the equation is we just need to get more capital in the world to flow into crypto, the crypto economy. But the other piece of it is we just need to drive more utility and use cases, and that's going to come from scaling the blockchains. There's a lot of great work happening with layer 2 solutions to make it more scalable, kind of like the internet went from dial-up to broadband. It's also going to happen from regulatory clarity, which we're now seeing in some really forward-thinking countries like the UAE. And it's going to happen from developers making the usability more simple. It's kind of like that iPhone moment or the Netscape moment when browsers or smartphones got just over that hump of good enough where suddenly it became mainstream. Whereas
but what is that for you? Is that some kind of like price tag on crypto, price tag on Ether? What is that moment for your world, do you think?
Well, I don't think it's just about the price. Actually, the market cap today is sufficient for that. I think it's about scalability. Blockchains are still too slow to be able to really hit the scale, and too expensive to be at the scale of, say, Visa or something like that. Mm-hmm. We need every transaction to be less than a cent, and maybe confirm within 1 to 2 seconds. I think, to me, that would be a threshold where we could now start to see it hitting a larger scale. And by the way, Coinbase is trying to do this. We launched our own layer 2 solution for blockchain scalability called Base, which is exciting. A bunch of developers have started to build on it. But there's a lot of other people working on layer 2 solutions. And so it's the scalability, it's the regulatory clarity, and then it's the usability of these apps. We have to make it so simple that the average person who doesn't even care how crypto works or anything about it, they just want to get something done, like send money to their family abroad or get their paycheck or buy some artwork. They should be able to just hit a button and it works. And it's kind of like using electricity or something. We can flip on a light switch and it just works. You don't have to be an electrical engineer to use a light switch. We need to make it that simple.
I would say banking in their apps are attempting to be at that level, but I don't even think they are at that level. You said we need more capital to flow into our world. What kind of capital and from where? Those are the two questions. What scale of capital does your ecosystem need? Mm-hmm. And it's not, well, I'm making a presumptive statement. It's probably not going to come from the banks.
Yes and no. So actually the largest banks in the world now, most of them have some sort of blockchain technology that they're trying to integrate.
Yes.
But I think you're right. The majority of capital in the world, it's tied up in institutions, sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, hedge funds. And Coinbase's institutional product has been the world leader in this regard. We have 25 of the top 100 hedge funds are clients. We have a number of the world's largest sovereign wealth funds and pension funds. So more and more institutional capital is flowing in.
What's the biggest issue for the sovereign wealth funds in crypto? I'm curious. Not issue, question.
Yeah, I've met with some of them, and they'll tell me, okay, we're going to put X amount into crypto today, and it's usually small. They're dipping their toe in the water, and then I ask them, what would be the item that would cause you to do more and more? And they say regulatory clarity.
And to that end, in terms of the regulatory hurdles, when you look beyond the United States of America, what is it that gives you as a CEO guidance that this is the right jurisdiction for you to move to? What is the piece of regulation that you think, yeah, these guys and girls really are switched on in terms of the regulation that they're moving towards? What would that be? I don't know whether that gong is for me to finish or not, but we'll find out in a moment.
I think, they're probably going to kick us off here.
We're off. Okay. Finish your thought, Brian, before we're evicted.
Yes. I think, look, VARA has already taken great steps. They've published a clearer rule book. We could have even more clarity about how retail investors can trade, how self-custodial wallets and DeFi can be regulated or not. And with those kinds of things, we're going to have even more of the pieces come together. But I'm still having my initial meetings here in the UAE. My first impressions are great. I think there's a really interesting opportunity for us to build an international hub here. I'm loving the culture.
Brian, welcome to Dubai. Welcome to the UAE. And good to see you. Come back soon.
Thank you. I will.